Joulupuu on rakennettu, joulu on jo ovella. Naamusia ripustettu ompikuusen oksilla. Oikein hyvää joulua, fanit! Niin kuin tästä näkyy, niin joulukalenteri on tälläkin vuonna ollut taso vähän mitä sattuu, mutta ja en itse asiassa tiedä, miten me päästiin tähän Jessen kanssa viimeiseen luukkuun. Ehkä se on Jessen hirveä media ajan hingun takia, mutta
oli sanossa se yhden sanan, mutta ei sanonut.
Hauskaa oli tänäkin vuonna ja toivottavasti te myös viihdyitte tämän joulukalenterin parissa. David Sklenitska on ollut positiivinen kopissa, ei ole puhunut noin paljon, että mä oon enemmän saanut nähdä hänen verbaalista lahjakkuuttaan tässä joulukalenterissa ja etenkin lämmitti se nukke siellä jossain lahjajaksossa, että nauroin sille kippurassa kyllä ja on siellä monia muitakin. Pakarinen nyt on oma itsensä ollut tuossa kopissa ja joulukalenterissakin, että puhuu vähän mitä sattuu välillä ja ehkä ne mulla niinku Kivistökin yllätti, mutta se on niin herrasmies tuolla kopissa ja sitten se suolailee joulukalenterissa. Aika erikoinen äijä.
Joo, sama Davidin nukkekommentti lämmitti muakin ja sitten se on hyvä semmonen niinkö piristys tonne koppiin, kun sitä tuntuu, että aika moni on kuitenkin kattonut ja siellä on ihan hauskoja juttuja ollut. Se ei taida kattoo sitä ja siitä saadaan vähän puheenajat koppiin, niin se on ollut hyvä.
Eniten mua ihmetyttää toi Victor Löövi, miksi sitä on tehty niinku sketsihahmo. Että mies, joka puhuu täydellistä suomea ja sitten se vetää hyvä, et sä pääsis näin.
Joo, kyllä. Me katsottiin sitä, oltaisiko katsottu Markon kanssa jopa kimpassa ja miksi toi Victori niinkö pelleilee, niin sitähän oli pakotettu kameran takaa.
Joo, tai sitten maksettu rahaa ja suoraan vapaa. Jotkut hiljaiset pelaajat kopissa sanoo, että ne ei välttämättä uskalla Jesselle niin päin naamaa sanoa tai tuot säteissä, että sitten on uskaltanut avautua tässä joulukalenterissa tosta touhusta, mutta kaikkihan tietää, että Jesse ottaa sen ihan hyvällä.
Joulun kalenterissa pitää sanoa, että siis mun mielestä aika hyvä ollut, mutta semmonen kriisi meillä on tällä hetkellä, että mä koen kasvaneeni ulos siitä tonttulakista, enkä haluaisi tehdä sitä pukukoppikierrosta enää. Meidän uusi franchise-pelaaja otti Iiro Pakariselta tittelin Brian O'Neill. Tekee debyytin. Aikamoiset saappaat Löövi ja Joensuu jättänyt. Katsotaan miten poika onnistuu.
Mielenkiintoinen.
Thank you, Jesse and Stretchy. I'll take it from here. This is the Jokerit Christmas Calendar Locker Room Tour 2020. So, Mr. Grant, when I first came to Jokerit, I thought I was a bit of a health nut, but this guy has totally taken it to a whole new level and someone that I actually learn a lot from. Just an all-around good guy, North American, so makes sense. Go to Mr. Kavisto here. Recently a new father, just the consummate professional, everyday life, on the ice, off the ice, extremely avid golfer, which I respect a lot about him. Even though his golf game isn't great right now, he has a passion for it, which I respect. So Tommy's one of my favorites. This whole section, probably from here on, probably the best bodies on the team. You have Mr. Ikonen, Norman, and the Finnish legend, Mr. Fjellström. All three tremendous genetic specimens, something I wish I had a little more of. Henry and I used to be roommates my first couple years on the road. Pretty quiet kid, but works hard, good teammate. When he's going through a rough patch, he has a good attitude, which I respect, so class act. Johnny Norman, this guy. I mean, where do I start with him? Just, first of all, he might be the fastest man alive on the ice. Just incredible first step. Nice kid, pretty quiet, but over the years, I think he's opened up a bit, which has been nice for everyone. So glad to have him for another year after this year. The Horseman. I mean, just a wonderful person to have on the team. really good about the fines, even though I give him a hard time. Sometimes I'm not happy with certain fines that are levied upon me for ridiculous reasons, but he's done a good job. People respect him. Definitely need guys like him on the team, and his Finnish national team career is pretty remarkable. So tons of respect for that. Jacob, first year playing with him. Him and David get along pretty well, which I think it's good to have that camaraderie between countrymen. Pretty laid back guy, which I like. So I think it's nice to have that Czech duo. I think they complement each other quite well. So I don't even know if I should say anything about this guy. If I had to say one thing, I would say han on lapsi. But Jesse knows how I feel about him. I think the fans know how I feel about him. He is the bridge between the imports and the Finnish guys, which on a team like Jokerit, when you have half and half, that's extremely valuable. So I do give him a hard time, probably too much sometimes, but he is the glue to the team. So the rumor is Jesse renegotiated his locker stall. He wasn't happy with where he was in relation to the middle. Usually the closer to the middle you get is where Jesse wants to be. It's where the big leaders usually are. So I think Jesse was originally supposed to be in this area, and he wasn't happy with that. And the telling thing for me is when we get on the road, before this year, probably the last 3 years, they've really tried to keep Jesse away from the middle. And I don't know if they're trying to get everyone involved. He's a loud voice. He's an alpha male, but it's a very telling sign when he's always near the bathroom or he's always near the end, especially for a guy that's going on his 6th season at Jokerit. So I don't know if he needs to reevaluate his personality or his character or look himself in the mirror, but it would be very concerning if I was Jesse. Mr. Schrader, he's from Minnesota, which is also known as God's country. Don't get me started, but Mr. Schrader's a pleasant surprise to have on the team. Usually not too many Americans lately on the Jokerit team, so to have a fellow countryman is always nice. We live together or near each other in Florida in the off season, play a little golf. So whenever you have a good friend like that on your team, it's always nice to have. Just a really nice kid. Hanan Mukaba. Marko Anttila. Not much to say about him besides he's Mr. Finland. Fun fact about Marko, he's a tremendous card player. Don't mistake his nice, gentle, friendly, giant attitude for him not being a card shark. Tremendous card player. Do not play cards with Mr. Anttila. Nicholas Jensen, the Dane, the storyteller. I think it would be very beneficial for all of us if we hired another Dane just to fact check him. Sometimes his stories get a little bit ridiculous. And the sad part is, once you call him out on a story that might be a little fabricated, he'll just take it the next step. Just a wonderful storyteller. Just need a fact checker by his side at all times. But one thing I do like about Nicky, he's ultra competitive. I respect that about him. A good guy. You need guys with that fire on your team, and Nicky definitely has that. Happala. I wish I could speak Finnish or understand Finnish better because I think he's really funny. He's definitely pretty funny in English, and that's not his first language, so that would be nice for me to understand his Finnish sarcasm. So maybe one day, at the end of my career, I'll be able to understand Henrik's sarcasm, but just a nice kid, nice to be around, always laid back, so good locker room guy. Jonathan Pudas, Swede from up north. Out of all the Swedes, his attitude's a little bit different, which I kind of like. It's probably similar to the northern Finnish guys. Pretty laid back, nice to be around, very friendly, respectful, quiet at times, but he's got a little edge to his game, and I respect that about him. So I think Jonathan is a nice complement to the other Swedes we currently have on our team, and we'll get talking about Victor in a bit, but I'm a big fan of our Swedish edition. Saku Manalainen. His English isn't great, so him and I can't have too many conversations, but he's a really funny kid. fun to go out with, karaoke. Vitsalo, I don't even know if I'm saying that right. New guy on the team, a lot of upside. I think his ceiling's pretty high. I like the way he's played and the games that he's been able to, so good for him, and especially at that young age. Mr. Jesse Joensuu, also from up north. He kind of reminds me of Sakari Manninen in terms of his mannerisms and his personality, but it's just a different vibe you get from the guys that are up north. Super nice. I don't think I've ever heard him say a mean thing. Mr. Solinska, big fan of the long drink. I don't know if that's been documented, but that's nice that he's adapted to the Finnish drinking culture in that regard. He's kind of like Rocky IV Ivan Drago, I think that's his name. Just a machine. Incredible work ethic, kind of a robot on the ice. And I mean, the guy shoots the puck extremely well. So another one of those genetic freaks. We might have to move him down there and replace him with Krejci and put him over here. But David's got a lot of potential. Oh, look at that. I hope there's more. I hope the other part of the case is in his locker over there. I don't think this is going to do it for him. Might need maybe 9 more of these. That would be sufficient. Jonas Collins, Hanan Mukava. I think this has been said a bunch. He doesn't have too many bad days, which is always good to have a teammate like that, especially when you're going through some tough times with the quarantine, the pandemic, go through a couple losing streaks. His attitude isn't going to change, and I'm sure that's a wonderful asset to have as a goaltender. So good to have Jonas. This is where Mr. Lindback usually sits. Anders, another Swede. I think out of all the Swedes, he is probably the most, eccentric. I sit over there, and sometimes I'll eavesdrop into these conversations where goalie talking to goalie, and that could lead to just about anything. Bitcoin has been a hot topic recently, so I think Anders has done quite well for himself in that regard, but just an interesting guy, fun to have conversations with. He's very knowledgeable, does quite a bit of reading, so I really enjoy talking to Mr. Lindback, and he's a hell of a goalie. Hani, just met him, don't know a ton about him, like what I've seen, at least from what I've heard about him. Seems like a prototypical power forward, which we definitely could use more of, so a wonderful addition for Jokerit, and he used to play for Jokerit, so I guess when you bring back one of your own, that's always great for the fans. Mr. Freeman, some of the guys don't like talking about things outside of hockey, but he's very knowledgeable about those things, which I like talking about. Always has something to say in certain conversations, which is nice. So on the road, especially when you're at a dinner with Mr. Freeman, always a good conversation, which I enjoy. This guy. I'm going to be the bigger man because last year, just to set the record straight, he made up some things about Mr. Regan and myself, which I did not appreciate at the time, but I think Peter and I had sufficient payback. I think the bullying is done, but I'm going to be the bigger person and say Mr. Louvre is a wonderful human being. I'm glad to have him as a teammate. He's a tremendous hockey player. I respect him as a person, and I wish him the best. I think when I think of Peter Regan, you just think of pure class. He's a good friend. He's a great teammate. Love him as a centerman, but just a classy human being, which I think that's one of the ultimate compliments you can give someone. Iiro Pakanainen. I should stop saying these last names. I'm butchering some of them, but Pakanainen. Iiro is pretty close to the perfect teammate. Just does everything for the team. I think you see that in his personality off the ice. Super nice guy. I'm glad to have him as a stallmate. It's always important to have good stallmates. I'm glad to have him on board for a couple more years after this. Won't really talk about myself too much here, but I'm right next to the stereo, and this is prime real estate for a couple of reasons. You're near the stereo, which means you're usually going to have a lot of say in what is played in the room, and this is the most valuable piece of real estate in the locker room, because if you look at all the other stalls, they don't have this extra, I guess you would call it foot and a half of space. So Sammy and I are really fortunate to be in this part of the locker room, especially during games when you have a lot of different stuff here. So thanks to the training staff for putting me here. But touching upon the Finnish music and the complaints that I've heard, I try to be sensitive to it. A lot of days I'll come in and I'll say, hey, what do you guys want to hear? And a lot of times it's just normal pop culture music. So I give them the opportunity. Jesse usually does a good job of coming over. Even though he used to be over here, they moved him on the other side. That might be, I mean, Jesse might have to think about that too. Maybe he was playing bad music, and that's the reason why they decided to move him away from the stereo. So something to think about. I will take the criticism of not playing enough Finnish music in mind, but I have to worry about the well-being of our team and the morale of our team during these ugly winter months. So hopefully we'll find a good balance and make everyone happy. Sammy Lepisto. If I had to trade lives with one person, this guy probably would be at the top of my list. Wonderful charisma. His hockey speaks for itself. Jokerit legend. Did really well in the NHL. Has been a prominent figure on the Finnish national teams over the past decade or so. So Sammy's got it all. And just, like I said, again, important to have good stallmates. So the training staff has really blessed me with two great stallmates. Veli-Matti. I'm going to try this in Finnish. Han on sisukas mies. This guy, I mean, if you're going to win a championship, you need guys like him. Ton of respect for Veli. I played with him on the regular line, PK, wonderful guy to have around. And you need that nastiness that he brings on a daily basis. And he's one of the hardest working guys I've played with. Thanks, guys. That's a wrap for this year's Jokerit Christmas calendar locker room tour. I hope you guys learned something different about one of your favorite players on the team, provided some new insight for you guys. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Kiitos faneille, että olette jaksanut seurata joulukalenteria, ja oikein hyvää joulua, ja toivottavasti nähdään peleissä ensi vuonna. Että...
Oikein hyvää joulua kaikille faneille. 2020 on ollut erikoinen vuosi ja jääkiekko merkkaa meille pelaajille. Me tiedetään, kuinka paljon se merkkaa teille, ja uskotaan siihen, että me ollaan menossa valoon päin, että huonoimmat ajat on niin kuin takana, ja toivottavasti kaikki vedetään rauhallinen joulu.
Tsekkaa Jokereiden viralliset fanituotteet 91 Toden nettikaupasta.